In a New York mansion, all the maids mocked one maid because she was speaking in sign language with the billionaire's deaf son, but she never imagined that this small act would change her entire life. Anna had grown up in a small town in Ohio, where her younger brother, Michael, was born deaf. She had learned sign language out of love for him, never realizing that one day it would become her greatest strength. As she signed back and forth with Ethan, the boy's laughter filled the mansion without sound, his eyes sparkling as if he had finally been seen. The other staff members watched from the corners, whispering in disbelief. How is she talking to him? They muttered. For Ethan, it was the first real conversation he'd had outside of his father in years. Anna asked about his favorite hobbies, and he excitedly signed about music, books, and his dream of being a writer. That moment of connection, small as it seemed, began to ripple through the mansion. Ethan had finally found someone who cared enough to reach him on his level. But not everyone was pleased. Some of the senior staff grew jealous of the attention Anna was receiving.
She's just a maid.
She's overstepping, one of them complained to the head butler, Mr. Carter. Whispers spread quickly that Anna was trying to win favor with the family. And soon enough, Richard Anderson himself noticed. One evening, as Anna and Ethan sat in the library laughing and signing to each other, Richard walked in. His sharp eyes caught the warmth between them, but instead of joy, suspicion clouded his face. "Why are you distracting my son?" he asked coldly. Anna froze, unsure how to respond. Ethan's hands moved rapidly in protest, signing to his father, but Richard couldn't understand. The silence between father and son deepened. For the first time, Anna realized this wasn't just about kindness. It was about a family that had lost the ability to connect. The next morning, Anna was summoned to Richard Anderson's private office. The tall mahogany doors loomed before her like a final judgment. Whispers had already spread among the staff that she was about to be fired. With trembling hands, she straightened her uniform and stepped inside, finding the billionaire seated behind his massive oak desk. His piercing eyes scanned her from head to toe as silence filled the room. For the first time, Anna realized that a single misunderstanding could end her entire future in this mansion. Richard wasted no time.
"Why have you been spending so much time with my son?"
he asked coldly. His voice carried authority, and yet beneath it a trace of worry. Anna's heart pounded as she struggled to find words. She explained that she knew sign language because of her younger brother back in Ohio. She told him how Ethan had lit up with joy the moment someone finally spoke to him in his own language. But Richard's expression remained unreadable, stone cold, as if her words carried no weight. As Anna stood there, she caught herself wondering if she had gone too far. Maybe the other servants were right. Maybe she had crossed a line no maid should dare to cross. The silence in the room grew heavier, and the ticking of the golden clock on Richard's desk seemed louder with each passing second. She lowered her eyes, ready to accept whatever harsh decision was coming. The mansion, which had felt like a place of new beginnings, suddenly felt like a cage about to close in on her. Just as Richard was about to speak, the office doors burst open. Ethan rushed in, clutching a notebook tightly in his hands. His face was pale but determined. He walked straight to his father's desk and slammed the notebook down in front of him. Richard frowned and opened it. In bold, shaky handwriting, Ethan had written, "Dad, for once in my life, I feel like someone understands me. Please don't take her away." The words pierced through the cold air of the office like lightning. Richard's eyes lingered on the page. He looked at his son, really looked at him, for perhaps the first time in years. The anger in his face slowly faded into something else: guilt, sorrow, and realization. His son wasn't being distracted. He was being heard. Something Richard himself had failed to give. Anna held her breath, unsure whether this moment of truth would save her or seal her fate. The silence stretched, unbearable, as if the entire mansion was holding its breath alongside her. Finally, Richard closed the notebook and set it down with trembling hands. He turned toward Anna, his voice no longer sharp but heavy with emotion. "You've given my son what I could not," he admitted softly. For the first time, Anna saw the billionaire not as a powerful man but as a father burdened with regret. The reveal was clear. She wasn't in trouble, she had awakened. Something that even Richard had forgotten existed. In that instant, the fate of Anna, Ethan, and the mansion itself had changed forever. The heavy silence in Richard's office slowly gave way to something fragile but powerful. For years, Ethan had lived in a world where words were out of reach, where people passed him by without truly seeing him. Yet in this single moment, the words scribbled in his notebook had spoken louder than any voice. Richard's heart ached as he realized his son's loneliness had been far deeper than he had ever admitted. Anna stood quietly, her hands clasped, unsure if she should stay or leave. But the look in Ethan's eyes begged her not to go. That night, Richard couldn't sleep. He walked through the long hallways of the mansion, replaying Ethan's words in his mind. For once in my life, I feel like someone understands me. It was as if a veil had been lifted, exposing the truth he had tried to cover with wealth and luxury. He had given Ethan the finest tutors, the grandest toys, and the most expensive clothes, but none of it mattered if his son had no one to talk to. For the first time in years, Richard felt the sting of regret, sharper than any business loss he had ever faced. The following morning, Richard approached Anna in the garden, where she was watering the roses. She froze when she saw him, expecting a dismissal, but instead he surprised her. "Anna," he said gently, "will you teach me? Teach me the language my son speaks, the one I should have learned long ago." Her eyes widened in shock. Never had she imagined the billionaire would humble himself in such a way. She nodded slowly, realizing that what began as a simple act of kindness was about to transform into something far greater. Days turned into weeks as Anna patiently taught Richard the basics of sign language. At first, his movements were stiff, his hands awkward, but his determination never faltered. Ethan watched in amazement as his father struggled but kept trying, signing clumsy greetings and short phrases. Every mistake brought laughter, every success brought tears. Slowly, the walls of silence that had separated father and son began to crumble. Ethan no longer felt like a guest in his own home. He felt seen, valued, and loved. The change did not stop there. Inspired by Richard's decision, the other staff members also began learning simple signs. What once was a mansion of whispers and mockery now became a place of inclusion and unity. Maids, butlers, and even the chauffeur practiced fingerspelling during their breaks, surprising Ethan with small conversations. For the first time, he wasn't the boy left out of the laughter. He was part of it. The mansion, once a cold palace of wealth, transformed into a warm home filled with connection. One evening, Richard hosted a small family dinner, something he hadn't done in years. To everyone's amazement, he stood up and signed to his son in front of the entire staff. "I love you, Ethan." The room fell silent, eyes widening, as Ethan's face glowed with a joy no one had ever seen before. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he quickly signed back. "I love you too, Dad." In that moment, wealth, power, and status meant nothing. The richest man in the room was the one who had finally found his son's heart. Anna sat quietly at the table, her heart swelling with emotion. She never sought recognition, yet here she was, the silent thread that had woven a broken family back together. Richard turned to her with gratitude in his eyes. "Anna, you didn't just help my son, you saved me too," he said, his voice trembling. She lowered her gaze, humbled, never imagining her kindness would ripple this far. Ethan reached over and took her hand, his silent thank you echoing louder than any words could. From that day on, life in the Anderson mansion was never the same. The boy who once lived in silence now lived surrounded by love, laughter, and understanding. The maid who was once mocked became a symbol of compassion and change. And the billionaire who thought money could solve everything finally understood that the greatest treasures in life are not bought, they are shared in moments of kindness. Anna's small act of signing hello had blossomed into a miracle that touched every soul in that house. It was proof that one act of kindness can change not just a life, but an entire world.